Welcome to another video from the Outdoor Analyst. Today I've got a fun one for you. We're just about finished with deer season here, and I was having lunch with my father. We were just kind of going over just kind of the season, talking about knives, talking about life, and Thanksgiving's happening in a day, and we just kind of wanted to, chat it up before all the craziness happened. And we got to talking about camping, we got to talking about knives, and I just thought, what is the best camping knife to take if you only had one option? And let me tell you, that is a very, very tough topic to cover. And it really kind of came down to different knife grinds and knife steels, sort of, but when it comes down to it, the way the blade is shaped and the way it is actually ground, to me, usually matters more than the steel that it is. Now there's going to be some talk back and forth. Rather that is how you feel about it, but it's kind of how I feel about it. Like, you can have a great steel, and if it's ground not so well, not for the task you're really wanting, then it's going to be awful. Going to be awful for you, just because it's not going to work nearly as well as, say, a lesser steel that's ground for the task you're wanting to put it through. And that kind of came down to camping. What tasks are you using a camp knife for? And as we're kind of thinking about it, really, what do you do? What do I do when I'm camping with, say just the brothers and the family out there? It's going to be more along the lines of food preparation and fire preparation, and more along the lines of food. We're going to be cutting up onions, tomatoes, cutting up steaks, chicken, getting stuff ready to throw on the fire. And also, cutting it when you're done, getting it in nice little bits to have a fantastic meal. And that's kind of what camping is usually just centered around. Whenever I'm headed out with the family, we're gonna be fishing, kayaking, and then it's food, and and food and fire. That's really what it comes down to. So some of my favorite knives are here. There's different grinds to them, and I just kind of wanted to go over the differences. And they're not going to be the best at everything, but some of them are very specific, and some of them I love for different reasons, and that's why they're here. Some of my favorite knives that I always gravitate towards are Scandi ground knives. Here is an LT Wright Outback, and it is Scandi, and it is nice and shallow there. These are amazing for woodwork. And if I'm going to be just making feather sticks and kind of splitting up some kindling, I'm going to most likely go for a Scandi ground knife. Now this one is actually fairly thin for even an LT Wright Scandi, so it's not like super, super thick, which usually these wedge out and get really wedgy, and it's great for just popping wood open. And that's what these are really good for. It's a great, comfortable handle, meant for just feather sticking for hours if you want it. Here's an Adventure Sporn Explorer and a Scandi grind as well. I'd say this one's a little wider on the wedge, so it splits wood a little better. It's not as thin on the edge as the LT Wright, so it doesn't like bite in as well, but I gravitate towards this knife probably the most out of any others. And its aesthetics, its feel, and the grind is just so good for wood, and that's usually what I'm grabbing a knife for. So that is incredible at woodwork. It's not incredible at food work or animal field dressing. It's not the best at that at all. It really isn't. For food, it just splits it open really too quickly. So if you're cutting into an onion or a tomato, you'll get one nice cut, and then all of a sudden it just starts to split it open, and you start tearing the food instead of actually having a nice cut slice through it. So it's a little harder to use in the kitchen. And for animals, you have to go to a really extreme angle on them, just kind of straight up and down. So it's a little harder on animal prep as well. But when it comes to wood, Scandi is incredible. On the other end, we kind of have a Saber grind, just a V edge on the bottom here. Whatever you have, that regular knife edge, a good old V edge. And I like V edges that are actually ground Saber. So you have a flat portion here, and then they taper down from this section down to get a little bit thinner, which means they'll actually pop wood open really well. So they're kind of a best of both worlds, as far as you get a little better food prep out of this. You still get that woodwork for splitting. Not as good as like carving, but pretty darn good. Kind of a good middle ground for everything is the Saber. And I really enjoy that. This is a nice dark timber honey badger. Does great for splitting logs open, and it's kind of a good all-arounder. And yeah, I don't mind dropping knives. These things get beat to death anyway on the regular. Here's a nice kind of mix. Now this is technically a convex edge. It's a Falk and even A1, but it is Saber up here, so it's flat, and then this is where they start grinding it down to a nice super thin edge. It doesn't have that V edge. This technically goes all the way down to itself. So it meets down here in a nice, sort of technically it's thicker behind the edge than all these other ones, but it still slices really well. And I love taking this knife out kind of west whenever I'm going to be splitting logs and I'm camping, just because it's stainless, don't have to worry about it in the cold, higher altitudes if there's going to be snow and rain everywhere. And it splits wood really well, still has a nice slicey edge, so kind of a fan. Definitely a fan of that sort of Saber Vex, if you will. And then there's a straight up convex. I love convex edges. This is a full height convex. This is a Falk and even F1. And it just is really kind of thick up top, but then it goes really thin really fast. It's ground all the way down to the edge on both sides, and it just makes for a really good slicer. Here's another version of that convex. Here's a Bark River, let's see, 1.25, Bravo 1.25 LT. So it's kind of thick up here, and then it gets real thin, and this is super slicey. Super slicey. So for food prep, this is amazing. Slices right through onions and tomatoes really well. Same thing with the F1, just it's a little shorter. So I kind of find when it comes to food prep, I like that longer blade a little bit better. So put them up this way. You get a little extra space on that Bark River up there. It allows you to just get through more food without having to do double cuts and whatnot. So amazing at food prep. For woodwork, convex is actually really good as well, and I'll put it right behind a Scandi when it comes to wood. Since it's so thin, it just makes feather sticking really easy, and I'd say still feather sticking is going to be the best with your Scandi. You can do incredible things with Scandi, but this is a close second right behind it. And then, you know, your V-edge is pretty darn close to the convex, but I'd still say convex is a little better at woodwork. And it's also a little tougher just because technically there's usually a little more meat behind the edge, even though these are super thin. Man, these are great. Great for kitchen prep, great for firewood work. And that's kind of what it comes down to. And so I thought, if I'm going to go camping, I know I'm going to be starting a fire. I know I'm going to be doing feather sticks, going to be splitting a little bit of kindling up. Man, that just leans right towards these beautiful Scandis. That's right where I'm going to be. But then I have to think, I'm not just going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing a lot of food work. And if I really have to be honest, I'm probably going to be doing more food work than firework. So that kind of puts my Scandis down. They're going to be out. Now, what about these V-edges here? V-edges are okay for woodwork. I'd say they're probably number 3. They're the last of the woodworking, you know, awesomeness. Since it is Saber ground, it'll split stuff really well. So if I need to split logs, it's going to be fantastic at doing that. And it's going to be probably second best at doing food preparation. It's going to be better than a Scandi. It's not going to split food open as much as that Scandi, so this is going to slice through better. And it kind of puts it at a nice number 2, but it's still not the best at anything. And I think that's what I at least want it to be the best at what I'm going to be doing the most at. So even the Scandi Vex, which it splits wood great, gets a little thinner there. I still think the best is actually going to be a full height convex edge. And this is going to be your best at working with food. So it's number 1 at the thing you're going to be doing the most at, and it's probably second best at woodwork. It's got a nice comfy handle here, which is what you want to go for, something that fits your hand really well. Something that's nice and thin and slicey. Does woodwork second best, and to me, having a 1 and 2 on the kickers that you're going to be using it the most for, This wins. This style wins. And for me personally, I like the longer blade just a little bit more for camping. For everything else, I usually always gravitate towards a shorter blade. I really do. But for me, even though this technically isn't my favorite knife out of any of those, it's the one I'm taking camping because I know it's going to work the best and it's going to make me the happiest when I'm out there. And that's what it is. Not saying the Bark River 1.25 LT, or I guess that's a Bravo, gosh, these titles are getting long, is going to be the absolute best, but this style is. And I think that's something that you should sort of look for when you're going for a camp knife. That full height convex is amazing. 5 inches is a good compromise. You still have control. It's not super long, but it's long enough to cut all your veggies. A nice comfy Coke bottle handle, never hurt anybody. Doesn't have to be super thick, doesn't have to be super thin. I kind of like this one because it's in the middle, even though for the majority of knives I'm going to be using for a super long time. Give me that thick handle. This thing's bloody comfortable. But I think it's a good compromise all-around knife. Something like this is fantastic. And the steel doesn't matter as much. If this was a stainless steel, it'd be a little better. This is CPM 3V, so when it comes to woodwork, it's one of the best woodworking steels out there. Comes to food, I use this on food all the time. It is not technically a stainless. I'd put it close to semi-stainless, but if you leave water and food residue on there, you'll get pits. It's 3V. It doesn't rust straight up, it just pits. You'll get that patina, and then all of a sudden you'll start getting little holes in it. And yeah, you can stop the continuous depth of the pits, but it sucks when you get those in your nice knife and you're never going to get them out. I think I've got one of those in my Adventure Sworn here. It's there we go. Yeah, a little bit of rust right there, and it's a pit, and you're going to have to legitimately, shave the steel down to actually get rid of it. So I'm just going to leave it. It's fine. It doesn't grow once you stop the rust and all that oxidation going on. So there it is. If this was a stainless like CPM 154, it'd probably be a little better. Or what is this? CPM S45 VN or something. They have a new one out. That's nice and stainless. That would probably be the ultimate camp knife because it's still fairly tough. Wouldn't be as good at woodwork, but it would do your kitchen work a little bit better. But as far as this goes, 3V's great. It's a good all-around steel. And yeah, something similar or even a nice stainless would be just fine. And I'm not too picky. Even VG10 has a lot less edge retention, and I still put this thing through the ringer, and it'll do great for a camping excursion for you. So there you go. If you're going camping, maybe think about for the spring, or you're looking for those Christmas gift knives, start looking at something similar to this. Find the knife that you really like, the brand you like, the steel you like. But when it comes to camping, I think that's kind of the specs that I really enjoy when I am out and about with the family just at a campsite. So there you go. Hope that helps. It was a lot of fun kind of coming up with it and going through my knives and seeing which one I would legitimately choose. Since it's Turkey Day coming up, have a great time with your family and friends, and be thankful for what you have. Take it easy, guys.